everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to the first ever episode of Game Room. That's right, we've got a brand new show on this channel that you can find every single Thursday in which we're going to be talking about all things video game related, because the Professor Thorgy channel is dedicated to all things geeky, and that includes video games, comic books, movies, cartoons, anything that you can think of. But because of that, it gets a little bit jumbled sometimes, so we are now finally putting everything into a schedule. So video game news will always be here on Thursdays, but it's not just going to be news. It's also going to be an excuse for us to just geek out and have fun and talk about stuff that we want to see in video games, whether it be like top 10s, recommendations. Sometimes I'll even just spotlight new upcoming games that I want to talk about. And this is not just the first episode of Game Room, this is also the very first video in our Pokémon month. That's right, in case you guys haven't heard, we have a theme this month on this channel. We are going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Pokémon, one of the most successful game franchises of all time, and one of my personal favorite series. It's a series that's meant a lot to me. I've been playing it for the vast majority of my life. So throughout this entire month, I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to look back at some of my favorite stuff from the history of Pokémon, but also look forward to some of the stuff that I'm really looking forward to. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is Pokémon Go. Now, I've been geeking out about this ever since they announced it. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I did my top 10 most anticipated games of 2016, and it was number one. Even though this is going to be a phone game that's going to look nothing like that commercial promised, trust me. I might be excited about this thing, but I have realistic expectations. I fully realize it is not going to be the big three-dimensional real-world experience that that commercial promised us. However, this is the beginning of something great. This is the beginning of taking that game that we love and applying it to the real world. And recently, there have been a lot of updates from the creators of this game, and it looks like this game is actually going to be more advanced than what I thought it was going to be. Like, when I saw the commercial, I was really excited for it, but I thought it was still going to be some kind of thing where it's like, okay, I can take my phone and then just walk around my neighborhood and probably catch them all there within a couple of days. No, 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 no. They have come out and said that this is going to be as close to a real-world Pokemon experience as you can get. They said in order to truly catch them all, you are going to have to travel the entire globe. There are going to be some Pokemon that are only specific to certain countries. There are going to be some that are only specific to certain areas and certain locations. In fact, they even said that they're going to get really specific with where they put them on the map. Like, water types are only going to be available at the coastline. Rock types are only going to be available in the mountains. And when I heard that, I went, oh my god, they are actually serious about this. They're actually going to try and make this as close to a real Pokemon experience as we can get. And when I heard that, suddenly my mind started racing. There are lots of possibilities to come from this game, so I put together for you guys my top 10 things that I want to see them do in the upcoming Pokemon Go game. Now, before we begin, I just want to clarify, this is my personal list of things that I would be excited to see. It's not necessarily the things that it's like, okay, yeah, well, you need to do this in order to make the best gameplay experience. I just think that these would be the things that would create the most fun experience for me personally. So let me know in the comments down below what you would want to see. I think everybody is going to have their own different opinions about this game, so let me know down below how you feel about it. But for now, let's get into number 10. Now at number 10, this one is so low because it's kind of already been confirmed. They didn't come out and say this specifically, but a couple of people who work behind the scenes kind of came out and leaked this information. But just in case that leak was a fake, I'm still going to put it on the list. But at number 10, I want there to only be local trading. Yes, there's definitely going to be trading. You can definitely go and say, hey, here's the Pokemon I caught, let me trade with you, just like you do with the regular video game. However, with the regular video game, you can trade with people all over the planet. I want this to feel like as close to a real-world Pokemon experience as you can get, in which you would have to actually meet the people who you would be trading with. And I'm not saying I want to go up to random strangers, but say I'm in a coffee shop, and I'm doodling around with my Pokemon Go there, and all of a sudden it goes, hey, there's another trader here. They want to trade with you. And yeah, I might not look around and be able to see them, but they'll be in the general area, like maybe within a 50-foot radius of me. And yeah, I would love to be able to just trade locally, because if you can just trade with anyone all around the world, bam, you can fill up the Pokédex like that. You don't even really have to work that hard. I want this to be a game where in order to really catch them all, you have to actually get up and go walking around. I want this to feel like you really did just enter the world of Pokemon, and in order to catch them all, you do have to go on this big epic journey, and if you can just trade all across the world, well then that kind of takes the point away. So I think local train only would be a great step to making it feel more like that actual adventure. At number 9, another thing that they did confirm is that there are going to be gyms in this game, but the gyms in this game aren't going to be like the Pokemon video game gyms, where there's going to be a gym leader, and you have to go and challenge him, and work your way past all of his underlings in order to reach him. No, the gyms in the real world are going to be like gyms in the real world. It's going to be a place in which you're walking around and all of a sudden your device will go off and will say, hey, you just entered into a gym. Time to train your Pokemon. And the gyms are the places where you go in order to train and level up your Pokemon. And I think that's a great way to get people interacting with each other, because let's say that there's a playground or a park or a mall somewhere near you and then there's a gym located inside of it. Basically, if you go there like once a week to train and all of a sudden you look around and you see a bunch of other people on their phones, you know what they're there for. You can strike up a conversation about Pokemon. You can meet some new Pokemon friends. I think it's a really smart idea to get people interacting with each other. However, number 9, I still want there to be gym leaders. And I'm not saying you have to go and challenge each other there every single week in order to find out who's the gym leader, and if you are the gym leader, then you have to stick around there and you can't leave until someone dethrones you. No, just make it a thing. It's like, hey man, did you train the hardest in this area this week? Well then you are this week's gym leader. Basically, it'll just be a title that you can hold and go, hey, alright, look what I did. Just something to make yourself feel good about all the effort you put into the game. At number 8, this is one I really hope I don't need to include on this list, because I hope that would be kind of obvious, but we haven't heard anything about yet, so I still feel like I need to put it here. But at number 8, make it more than just Gen 1. Alright, nothing wrong with Gen 1. That's the one everybody knows, so if you're going to pick only one generation to put in this game, of course that's the one you're going to start with. And I understand not putting every generation out there at once, because a great way to keep people playing and keep them coming back is to release a new gen every year or so I can understand them not releasing every gen at once. However, if you're going to take these Pokemon and spread them all across the planet, only 150 isn't really going to do that much. They're going to be spread pretty thin. So maybe include the first 2 gens, just to provide some more variety, just to give people some more Pokemon that they can catch. Like I said, I really hope they're going to go ahead and do that anyway. It seems like a slam dunk decision to me, but from a business standpoint, like I said, those extra gens would keep people coming back later on, so I can see them only putting out Gen 1, so I'm still kind of nervous about it, which is why I'm still keeping it on this list. Now at number 7, I warned you guys at the beginning of this video, this is just my own personal opinion about things that I think would make it a more fun experience for me, just things that I personally would want to see. So I know no one in the comments is going to agree with this one, but when Gen 5 came around and you got introduced to the new land of Unova, it was based on America. In fact, the map for Unova was a complete reproduction of Jersey, Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn. So I think it would just be a really cool tribute to the game if when they were deciding which Pokemon to place where all around the globe, if they just went, you know what? This is supposed to be this area. Let's just pick that entire map up and place it right down on top of the tri-state area. Just basically that way I would be able to go, okay, it's like I'm actually playing the Gen 5 games. And I know that for some reason that's the most hated generation. I like that generation. I don't know why everybody hates it. So yeah, I want to play through a real world Unova. At number 6, I would like it if Pokemon Go could sync up with other social media apps. Hold on, stop, before you all tell me why this is a horrible idea, trust me, I know how annoying it is when you're playing a video game and all of a sudden it keeps popping up, hey, do you want to share this on Facebook? Hey, you just got an achievement, want to share that on Twitter? That is insanely annoying. I hate when they do that. So why on earth would I want them to do that with Pokemon Go? I'll tell you why. Because basically whenever they do that, whenever they sync it up, it's the social media sites coming in and going, okay, yeah, well, let's use this game to help get more activity on our site. I want Pokemon Go to go the exact opposite route. I want them to use the social media sites because I want Pokemon Go to get really specific with where they start placing all of these Pokemon. And you can't do that by just looking at a giant map. However, let's say that there is a restaurant out there and everybody who visits it on Foursquare goes, oh, this place has the best ice cream in the world. What if the most popular item on this menu on Grubhub is their ice cream? All of a sudden, Pokemon can link up with that and go, which restaurants have the most popular ice cream? Bam, Vanillixes all over them. Or they could find out which bakery has the best pastries in the world. Bam, and Slurpuffs, all at those places. I know it'd be really annoying if every single time that you caught a new Pokemon, all of a sudden it popped up and said, hey, do you want to share this on Twitter? But I think it's worth the exchange if it will allow the game to be able to create far more specific placements and able to create a much more richer gameplay experience. And along those same lines, at number 5, I would like it if you could sync up Pokemon Go with your Pokemon Bank. Now, Pokemon Bank is this great app which allows you to be able to transfer Pokemon from one generation to the next. You can just send it right to the Pokemon Bank, so that way you do not have to keep holding on to your old cartridges and your old systems in order to transfer stuff up the chain. You can basically just put it in the bank, and then whenever a new game comes out, you can just port that straight from the bank into your new game. Now, I would love it if Pokemon Go could sync up with Pokemon Bank, but only in one direction. As I said, I want this to feel like a real Pokemon experience in which you're going out there into the world to capture these Pokemon, and I think it would be great if you found a rare Pokemon in the real world and you're like, oh cool, let me also get that data onto my games so I can have that in my Pokedex, so that way you could send it into Bank and then into your Pokedex. However, I don't want people to just go around and capture the rarest stuff easily in their games and then go, oh yeah, and now I'm going to beat everyone in Pokemon Go because I'm going to send it straight from my game to Pokemon Go. No, I want Pokemon Go to help you establish your Pokedex in your video games, but I don't want you to use your video games to cheat in Pokemon Go. That is the most times I've ever said Pokey in one sentence. Blech. Now, at number 4, I said that I think it is fantastic that they're making it so that only specific Pokemon can be found in specific countries. However, I fully understand it would still kind of suck that it's like, oh man, there are these Pokemon, they're just right up there on the map, but I can't travel up there, I'm just stuck down here. That's why I think it would be great if they could have the Pokemon migrate. Give a couple of Pokemon migrational patterns, so that way it's like, oh man, when am I ever going to be able to catch this one? Oh, in September, because that's the direction that they're heading around the world, and eventually they will make it here. So that way, once you have filled up your entire Pokemon roster from all the Pokemon in your area, you're not just kind of stuck there until you go on vacation to a different state. No, you can still just wait there until another month comes by, and then hey, guess what? Another Pokemon will have come into your area. That is another way in which they will be able to make sure that you keep playing this game, that you have a reason to keep picking this game back up, rather than, like I said earlier in this video, just introducing generation after generation. I think that this would be a great way to satisfy all those people out there who's like, man, I want to catch them all, but I can't travel the entire planet. Give me a way to go out there and actually catch new Pokemon in my neighborhood without having to leave it. And along those same lines, I've thought of 2 other ways that you can ensure that new Pokemon will pop up in your area all throughout the year, so that way you will continue to have a new gameplay experience without having to travel the entire planet. And that brings me to number 3, do special stuff for weather and holidays. Let me give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Let's start with holidays. There are so many holidays out there that you can look at all those Pokemon out there and go, oh, there's a couple ones that would match up with this. Like take the 4th of July. Braviary, the big red, white, and blue eagle. Say on July 4th, suddenly Braviaries start flying around America a little bit more frequently. Or take Arbor Day, a couple of the tree Pokemon like Sudowoodo. Yes, I know that he's not actually a plant type, but you get what I'm saying. Take a couple of the tree type Pokemon, have them appear a little bit more frequently. Or when Halloween comes around, I want there to just be a big Halloween button at Pokemon Go headquarters, and the moment it hits October 31st, you just hit that button and ghost type everywhere. Ghost type all over the country. Or just looking at the weather, there are tons of Pokemon themed around the weather. I mean, Castform itself is the weather Pokemon. He would be a great guy to pop up whenever it's super sunny, he'd be in his sun mode. Whenever it's rainy, he'd be in his rain mode. Or the area that I live in just got hit by a massive blizzard. I'm not saying put a bunch of snow type Pokemon out there when the blizzard is hitting. That'd be cruel to send people out during that. But the day after, when all the snow is out there and it's stopped falling, heck man, that'd be a great chance to have Articuno pop up for one day only. I think that would be awesome. Or at least send a couple Mamoswines walking down the street. Give us an excuse to go out there and celebrate the crappy weather. Give us some good thing to look forward to when the weather turns sour. I think that that would be a wonderful thing for Pokemon Go to do to try and make up for, getting snowed indoors for a couple of days. Now at number 2, I've been talking about how this game is going to have certain Pokemon in specific locations throughout this entire video. But number 2, I want them to put these guys at really specific places and actually think about the logical real-world counterparts to some of the locations in the Pokemon games. Now, what I'm talking about is I'm not just talking about putting rock types in the mountains or water types by the beach. That's great, I'm glad they're doing that. But I want them to get really specific with this stuff. Like for instance, Massachusetts in America is known for having a large number of hauntings and ghost stories. Have there be a lot of ghost Pokemon in that town. Or there are a lot of cities in America that are known for their steel plants. Have more steel type Pokemon in those areas. I want the people making this game to not just look at the geography, but also at the history of certain locations and figure out which Pokemon would be more likely to frequent those areas. And that goes double for the legendary Pokemon. Like take Ho-Oh and Lugia for example. Those two Pokemon in the games can be found perched atop two towers, which are actual counters to real-life Buddhist temples that you can find in Kyoto. Have those Pokemon at those towers. That one seems really obvious to me. Or take Deoxys for example. That guy comes from space, and in order to catch him, you have to go through this storyline that involves you going to a space center. So if you want to catch him in the real world, you have to find him in Cape Canaveral. I'm just saying that Pokemon Go is basically going to be a giant love letter to all the fans of Pokemon out there. And in Pokemon, they really think through where these characters will be located based on the stories behind them. So if you want to make this a real-world counterpart to the Pokemon games, I want them to really think about where these Pokemon would specifically be found. And lastly on my list at number 1, I want you to choose your starter. I don't want it to be a thing where they give you 3 or 4 starters where it's like, alright, Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle, pick which one, because then every single person out there will have one. What I want them to do is allow everybody to really create their own unique Pokemon experience by choosing their starter. Now I'm not just saying go, hey, here's the list of every single Pokemon, pick whichever starter you want. No, nothing like that. When the game begins, I don't want them to give you a Pokemon. I want them to give you a Pokeball, which is called like a mini Master Ball, something like that, in which goes, this has a 100% successful catch rate for any Pokemon that is level 5 or lower. So you really are going to have to start it at the bottom. You're going to have to start with a small Pokemon, just like you would in the game, but you actually get to walk around and explore your town until you come across that level 5 or lower Pokemon that's like, that's my guy. That is the guy who I want to start my journey with. That's the one who I want to start this big adventure with. I want to get that guy. He's going to be my new buddy, and we're going to go on our Pokemon adventure. I don't want them to just go, here's your Pokemon. I want this to really feel like you're going out there into the world on your adventure, and it starts with you finding your very first Pokemon. This would also create a ton of variety in the players that you come across, because if they just let you choose between Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle, then like I said, everybody will have one of those guys. But if you do it this way, then the people that you come across would not only have more of a variety in the Pokemon that they have, but they would also be able to have more Pokemon that speak to them. They would get to choose that very first Pokemon that really speaks to them, so you could meet somebody who specializes in Psychic types, and their very first Pokemon was an Abra. You could come across somebody who specializes in Dragons, and their very first Pokemon was a Gibble. Everybody will have their own Pokemon that speaks specifically to them, and that will be the one that they get to start their adventure off on. But those are just my ideas. That's the stuff that I would love to see them do in this game, but there are so many other ideas that I have heard people have online, so I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments down below what you want to see in the upcoming Pokemon Go game. Also, if you want to see more stuff from me about Pokemon or video games or anything geeky, like I said, we cover comic books, reviews, movies, cartoons, all that stuff on this channel, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, make sure that you share. You guys have been doing that a lot lately, and it has really been helping this channel. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Click on one of the videos at the end of this to see even more Pokemon fun stuff from me. And like I said, this was the very first video in Pokemon month, so we have way more planned all the way through February. Thank you guys very much, and I will see you next time.